Hello there, it's Graciela here. In today's video, we'll be learning how to make Power Query dynamically recognize the folder in which your file is saved, so it can dynamically recognize the other files inside the same folder. So in this case, what we want to do is we want to create a template that we can reuse among different folders. Because, for example, we are receiving every day or every 2 weeks or every 3 days different files that have the same format, and we just need to merge them together or append them together and have them in a single file. So they are all going to have the same structure. We just don't know how many files we're gonna get. And we also want the Power Query code to automatically recognize that if I place my template in this folder, it recognizes these 3 files. If I place it in this one, it recognizes these 2 files. And if I place it on this one, it recognizes that it's a new folder and that it should work with these 6 files in this folder. So for that, let's open a new Excel file and let's save it, for example, for now in folder 1. And we're gonna call this file just template. And the first thing we are going to do is we are going to create a tab that is called path. And then here we're going to just add a new table that has a column name file. And inside this file, we are going to use the function or the formula cell in Excel. And here we are going to write file name. Then we close parentheses. And as you can see, this one recognized we are under my C. Then another folder, and then folder 1, and then we have the actual file, which is called template. And then that we're in the tab that is called path. And then we're going to just create this as a table. We can do that by either doing Control T, or if we go to Insert and then Table. Then we select that our table has headers, and that's it. We're gonna call it file path, and this part is almost ready. Now we can create our small template that will bring the data. So in this case, we're interested in bringing together these 3 files. So for that, what we need to do is to just go to Excel, then go to data, then we go to get data from file and from folder. Let's select for now for folder 1, and we're gonna make it dynamic in a minute. So let's select folder 1, we hit open. And here we're gonna click on transform data. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to remove anything that says template. So let's remove these 2. So we're just left with the actual inventory files. The other thing that we could do is to just do text filters and then contains. And if we know there's going to be a keyword that it's always going to exist, so we can do it that way as well. And just say it, bring anything that has this keyword, so we know all the files we want to merge come in this format. Then we just do, we're gonna remove this other filter, and then we just do the regular step, which is just merging everything and putting them together. And then we hit OK. And this is going to create a function that each file is going to call, so we can bring the content of each file. So in this case, the first thing we are going to change is, you can see here that once we try to merge everything, this creates this query that is called transform sample file. So that means that for every file in your folder, it's going to recognize or try to use these steps to recognize all the lines or all the tables inside your files. And you can see that here it's using the tab name or the sheet name, and we're not always going to get the same names. So a really good workaround for that is just say that it gets the first tab that it finds or the first table. So in this case, we are just going to replace all of this by a 0. And this, we're gonna say just bring the first row on the column that's data. And you can see that really nothing happened. But this will make, if you remember, there were some lines here because there were some errors because not all the files had that same tab name. So it's really important that if we know that our files, even though they're going to have the same structure, but if they are going to have a different name, we always need to come into our file to make this change to make sure that everything is recognized. In this case, let's just rename this a query and call it appended files. And let's just close and load. Once everything loads, we can enable content and we can see that we have data from the 3 files. Now it's time to make it dynamic because for now it's for sure connected to just folder 1. So for us to make it dynamic, we're going to go to the path tab, and here we're going to go to data, and then we're going to go to this option that is called from table range. So that's going to get us again to Power Query. And you can see we have the file path here. For now, it's recognized as a table, but what we want to do is to convert this into an actual text. So what we can do is just right click and then drill down. As you can see, what that does is just getting the first row and then the column that is called file. So you can see that here it added a few steps. It converted into text and then we extracted the actual text. For now, let's quickly just make a quick change, transform, and then let's extract, and then let's extract the text before delimiter. And we're gonna extract everything before this character, and we just want to start from the end of input. So we hit OK, and you'll see that it will bring the folder that we need. In this case, it's C, then this, and then folder 1. And once we do that, you can see that it automatically brings the information. Now, something that I like doing a lot is to kind of simplify this code. And I think that we can simplify this a lot and just create a single line of code. So I'm going to open a notepad, and I don't think that we really need to convert it to text because at the end it's going to be converted to text. So I'm going to remove it. So what I'm going to do is I will take this source text and put it here instead of change type. And if we remove everything that is at the top, so we are pretty much replacing the change type action and just putting directly, like nesting the code when we were bringing the information from the Excel file. You can see that even though we made a kind of a big change, really nothing happened. The result is the same. So now we only have to, we can just copy this that is at the end. We can see that what this navigation is doing is extracting the information from the previous step, then extracting the first row, and then extracting this column. So we can just put this same code at the very end of the function, and it will automatically extract the information without having to have many steps. So let's just remove this navigation step. And you can see that just this single line of code is getting us everything that we need to get. So instead of having these 4 lines of code, we just end up with a single line of code that automatically gets the information from the table that is called file path. It gets the content, then it transforms the column and it extracts the information before the first delimiter, and then we extract the first row and the file column. And that's it. And here we could do a few things to make it dynamic, because now that we have brought our file path that is in the Excel sheet into our Power Query, there are many ways in which we could really just bring this file path into our files. One way would be to go to the appended files section, and here in the source, instead of using this hard-coded text, we just bring the file path. And that will pretty much do it. However, when we do this, when we combine the results of 2 different queries, in this way where we're calling the information that this query is returning and we're calling it in another query, we need the users to come here to Query Options and allow combining different permissions or different queries. So if your users are good doing that, we can do this. If not, the only option that we have left is to copy this text and to just pass it here. So instead of calling the result of file path, we just remove that and pass it here in the middle of the 2 parentheses, and you can see that really nothing happened because the result is the same. This results in a text that has exactly the file path that we need to bring. So in this case, this would be one of the places where we would need to make this change, but we would also need to make it here in the sample file because the sample file also has a reference to the path. So we need to make sure to remove this and also add it. The downside of copying the code is that if you make any change, you have to go everywhere to make the change. However, I think that sometimes that's better than having your users making changes to Power Query because it can be confusing for them to have to enable the privacy for the workbook. So I think that here we would have to think about if we want to keep this code or if we want to use the result of the file path. That depends a lot on each use case, so we can make a decision. In this case, we're just gonna place the code in the two places and make sure that it's nowhere else being used. So for now, I think we're good. And let's remove the file path from here. Well, my Power Query, it's kind of going crazy because it's getting like a bit slow, but now it's deleted. So let's go back to home and then close and load. And you can see that really nothing happened to the result of the query because the result is exactly the same. We just updated the references to the folders to be dynamic. I'm just going to hide this because the users really are not going to use it. I'm just going to save this and I will go to the other folder and paste the template. So let's copy and paste here, and I will delete the folder 1. So we make sure that nothing in this template is making reference to folder 1. I always do that when I work with these dynamic files to make sure that nothing is making reference to a hard-coded path. So here you can see that we're still looking into the 3 files. If I go to data and then we go to refresh all, this should take the new path into folder 2, get only 2 files, and then just put them here into our Power Query results. Okay, let's see. And you can see that now it brought only 2 files. It automatically recognized that we are in a different folder and that we should get a different set of files. And you can see that we didn't get any error. That means our reference were properly changed to dynamic paths because the folder 1 really no longer exists. So let's do the same. Let's copy this and go to this other folder 3. And here we should get more data because our files are duplicated. We have the original file and the copy. So let's open the template. And let's do the same. Let's enable content, then data, and then refresh all. And now it's done. We can see that it correctly recognized that we are in a different folder. We really didn't do anything to recognize a different folder. It's just Power Query connecting to this path or this tab that we have hidden here that is recognizing correctly. Oh, we are in a new folder or in a new location, and then it's transferring this to our Power Query queries, and then using those queries to get the list of files in that folder and get the sample file from there and just automatically bring the information from that different folder every time. And I hope that this was useful for you. See you next time.